Hi, my name is Meena and my student ID is 30096618. This presentation covers the topic of disaster recovery plan. Here are some outlines of the topic that I will discuss in next few slides. Definition of disaster recovery plan, objectives of DRP, benefits and how to develop an effective disaster recovery plan. First of all, I will discuss about the definition of disaster recovery plan. A disaster recovery plan is a documented process or set of procedures to recover and protect a business architecture in the event of a disaster. Such plan documented in written form specifies procedures an organization is to follow in the event of a disaster. It is a comprehensive statement of consistent actions to be taken before, during, and after a disaster. The disaster could be natural or man-made. The plan should be documented and tested to ensure the continuity of operations and availability of critical resources in the event of a disaster. The disaster recovery planning is designed to protect the organization in the event that all or parts of its operations or customer services are rendered unusable. Preparedness is the key. The planning process should minimize the disruption of operations and ensure some level of organizational stability and an arranged recovery after a disaster. Now move on to various objectives of disaster recovery plan. The primary objective of the disaster recovery plan is to make sufficient agreed upon preparations and to design and implement a sufficient set of agreed upon procedures for responding to a disaster of any size in the departmental area of responsibility. Reduce overall risk. The main goal of any disaster recovery plan is to reduce the overall risk to the company. Look carefully at the plan and ask the question, is there anything missing that would prevent the business from restarting rapidly? The plan must be concise and yet comprehensive. Look for holes that will endanger the successful implementation of disaster recovery plan. Alleviate honor investor concern. Once developed and tested, the team members should present its disaster recovery plan to the owners and or board of directors. Record any and all feedback and make sure it is addressed in the revised plan. If they are more apprehensive after the presentation of disaster recovery plan, it needs to revisit each and every item before it present it again. Restore day-to-day operations. The bottom line is, can the disaster recovery plan restore the day-to-day operation in a reasonable time? His customers will be understanding and sympathetic if he ever experiences a disaster, but they will not wait forever him to get your feedback on the ground. Operations must be restored quickly before customers start leaving for the competition. Comply with regulations. If the business is in a regulated industry, make sure the disaster recovery plan takes into consideration all government regulations. Just because it is operating out of a temporary office does not exempt its business from regulations. Rapid response. Any disaster recovery plan must be written and developed with the goal of responding rapidly to any disaster. Time is the biggest enemy after disaster strikes. The copy of the disaster recovery plan is stored off-site, can be accessed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. An emergency contact list with multiple phone numbers for each manager must be accessible at any time of the day or night. Benefits of disaster recovery plan. Improved business processes. It improves business processes and these processes undergo such analysis and scrutiny. Analysts almost can't help but find areas for improvement. Improve technology. Often the company need to improve IT support to recover objectives that the company develop in the disaster recovery plan. The attention the company pay to recoverability also often leads to making the IT systems more consistent with each other and hence more easily predictably managed. Fewer disruptions. As a result of improved technology, IT systems tend to be more stable than in the past. Also, when the company makes changes to system architecture to meet recovery objectives, events that used to cause outages do not do so. Higher quality. Because of improved processes and technology, the company needs services that should be improved both internally and to customers and supply chain partners. Competitive advantages. Having a good DR plan gives a company bragging rights that may outshine competitors. Price is not essentially the only point on which companies compete for business. A DR plan allows a company to also claim higher availability and reliability of services. How to develop an effective disaster recovery plan. Obtain top management commitment. Top management must support and be involved in the development of DRP process. Management should be responsible for coordinating the DRP and ensuring its effectiveness with the organization. Adequate time and resources must be committed to the development of an effective plan. Resources should include both financial considerations and the effort of all personnel involved. Establish a planning committee. A planning committee should be appointed to oversee the development and implementation of the plan. The planning committee should include representatives from all functional areas of the organization. Key committee members should include the operations managers and the data processing manager. The committee should also define the scope of the plan, perform a risk assessment. The planning committee should prepare a risk analysis and business impact analysis that includes the range of possible disasters, including natural, technical, and human threats. Each functional area of the organization should be analyzed to determine the potential consequence and impact associated with several disaster scenarios. Establish priorities for processing and operations. The critical needs of each department within the organization should be carefully evaluated in such areas as function operations, key personnel, information processing systems, service, documentation, vital records, and policies and procedure. Determine recovery strategies. The most practical alternatives for processing in case of a disaster should be researched and evaluated. It is important to consider all aspects of the organization, such as facilities, hardware, software, communications, data files, customer services, and user operations. Alternatives dependent upon the evaluation of the computer function may include hot sites, warm sites, cool sites, reciprocal agreement, data centers, multiple computers, and service centers. Perform data collection. Recommended data gathering materials and documentation includes backup position listing, critical telephone numbers, communications inventory, distribution register, forms inventory, insurance policy inventory, main computer hardware inventory, master call list, microcomputer hardware and software inventory. It is extremely helpful to develop pre-formatted forms to facilitate the data gathering processes. Organize and document a written plan. An outline of the plan's contents should be prepared to guide the development of the detailed procedures. Top management should review and approve the proposed plan. The outline can ultimately be used for the table of contents after final revision. Other benefits of this approach are that it helps to organize the detailed procedures, identifies all major steps before the writing begins, identifies redundant procedures that only need to be written once, and provides a roadmap for developing the procedures. A standard format should be developed to facilitate the writing of detailed procedures and documentation of other information to be included in the plan. This will help ensure the disaster plan follows a consistent format and allows for ongoing maintenance of the plan. Standardization is especially important if more than one person is involved in writing the procedures. Develop testing criteria and procedure. It is essential that the plan should be thoroughly tested and evaluated on a regular basis. Procedures to test the plan should be documented. The test will be provide the organization with the assurance that all necessary steps are included in the plan. Test the plan. After testing procedures have been completed, an initial test of the plan should be performed by conducting a structured walkthrough test. The test will provide additional information regarding any further steps that may need to be included, the changes in the procedures that are not effective, and other appropriate adjustments. Approve the plan. Once the disaster recovery plan has been written and tested, the plan should be approved by top management. It is top management's ultimate responsibility that the organization has a documented and testing plan. Management is responsible for establishing policies, procedures, and responsibilities for comprehensive contingency planning. In a nutshell, we can say that disaster recovery plan is becoming an increasingly important aspect of enterprise commuting. A disaster recovery plan is a main component of a business continuity strategy, the policies and procedures an organization uses to recover from an IT disabling disaster. Current enterprise systems tend to be too large and complicated for such simple and hands-on approaches. However, an interruption of services or loss of data can have serious financial impact, whether directly or through loss of customer confidence. That is the end of the presentation. Thanks for watching my video.